You didn't hear the end of the phone call with the mayor and George Pataki, both of whom thanked me for the fact that we was immediately on the phone with them from Air Force One, and our government responded quickly.
How would you prepare today tomorrow, Mr. President? Could you give us a sense as to what kind of prayers you are thinking and where your heart is for yourself?
Well, I don't think about myself right now. I think about the families, the children. I'm a loving guy, and I'm also someone, however, who's got a job to do, and I intend to do it.
You know, that's still so, it's hard to watch that and not get choked up yourself watching the President of the United States react like that. And we're joined, as we welcome you back to the show, folks, by one of the men mentioned by then President Bush, Governor George Pataki, the governor of New York. Always great to see you, sir. Thank you for coming
Steve,
up.
always good to see you. Thank you.
You remember, obviously, the phone call that the President was alluding to?
Yes. We had so many. The first thing I did is I talked to Mayor Giuliani before the buildings came down. Told him I was here, we were mobilizing the National Guard and our emergency response team, and that I would call President Bush. And I called President Bush and got him in Florida and said, could you please shut down the airspace over New York? Because for all the horror that had already happened, we didn't know what might happen next. And the President had already shut down the airspace, and from that point on, we just had constant discussions.
And to hear him and see him react there, choking up and saying, I'm a loving guy, but I have a job to do. And so even in that moment of wanting to maybe shed tears, he gathered himself within seconds and took on the correct tenor of a leader of the free world who's going to respond, which, you know, is certainly the right thing to do if you could pull it off.
It is. It was a very emotional time, but if you were in a position of leadership, you just didn't have the luxury of being able to think about the emotional side and the losses that we had all incurred, friends, co-workers, people that you just respected enormously. You had to move forward and do the job. And the President, in those days and weeks after September 11th, was tremendous and a source of strength for New York, for the country, and for the world.
And I don't know how much of that's of your strength you got from him, but you certainly were a pillar of strength. And I've seen, you know, the videos I've looked at recently again of you down there and talking to the responders and the workers and the people who are trying to find survivors, and they applauded you as you walked by. And I mean that, you know, so you too don't. I want folks to realize, because I was around then here, and you were fantastic. But what were your worst fears as you found out about, as you said, you called Giuliani and then the President shut the airspace, we didn't know what would happen. For how long were you worried that there was more coming?
It literally went on for weeks because we just didn't know. The first thing I had to do was not only be concerned about ground zero on lower Manhattan, but the bridges, the tunnels, the airports, the subways, everything that was vulnerable, because we didn't know if something could happen next. And then, of course, you had the anthrax thing, and my offices actually got contaminated, and we had to close my offices like a week after September 11th, and at that point, no one knew whether it was linked. So it was some period of time of uncertainty, but uncertainty as to what might happen, but no uncertainty as to what we had to do. We had to be vigilant, we had to be proactive to protect ourselves, and certainly in those first hours and those first days to try to do everything we could to save as many lives and help those who were hurt as we could.
When you look at where we are now, first of all, are you not amazed as I am? I would have bet anything on that day that we would be hit like you feared, you know, within days or weeks. Here we are 13 years, and our police efforts in New York specifically have been unbelievable. We've thwarted attacks, and police work in general around the world and around the United States. But still in all, it would take one guy, and I don't even want to say how, but it would take one guy to wreak havoc, and nothing has happened.
Well, I wouldn't say nothing.
Well, no, but I mean nothing.
We had the Boston Marathon,
yeah.
And we had the
but nothing of the
Islamist
magnitude we might have expected.
at Fort Hood.
Yeah.
But nothing like we had feared. But
sure.
I'll tell you, my honest feelings 13 years after September 11th is we are as at risk today as I've felt since September 11th. We know the global situation where Al-Qaeda is not on the run. In fact, they're still there, and ISIS, which is a radically even worse, if you can say that, than Al-Qaeda group is actively trying to target Westerners and Americans. We know we still have a porous border. And ISIS has hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to bribe people. And, you know, you think back, Steve. Al-Qaeda had $500,000, no territory it controlled, no technology, and the weaponry was a box cutter. ISIS has hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, sophisticated communications capabilities, and advanced weaponry, and thousands of Westerners carrying Western Europe and U.S. passports. We have got to be very proactive to protect ourselves.
Yeah, and there's a story about they're planning a cyber war against the U.S. and the West as well. And you talk about the president last night announcing what he announced. I wonder what your reaction is to today. After all that last night, John Kerry today telling CNN we're not at war with ISIS. It's a what did he say? A very significant counter-terror operation. What goes through their minds?
I think it's polling, and I fear it is polling and politics as opposed to reality. Reality is ISIS is at war with us. They know that. The Middle East knows that. The world knows it. The one group that the American people know it. The one group that won't admit it is our administration. But last night, there were some encouraging things. The president, after 6 years, finally actually called it terrorism, which he had avoided the whole way through. He did say we are going to destroy them as opposed to containing them, as he said just a few days earlier. But I still have grave concerns about this administration because we've heard strong words before. And the words may have been fine, but it's the actions that matter. Yeah. And we cannot, this president cannot, as he tried to do with Putin, just give strong words, as he has done in the past, rely on strong words, as he did a year ago when he went on TV and said, we're going to bomb Syria because Assad has got to go. He drew the red line. Yeah. The words are not good enough. Yeah. This time, the president can't give a speech and walk off the stage. He has got to follow it with actions. And I pray he does, and the American people get that message to the administration.
Governor, thank you for coming up. Always appreciate seeing you, sir. And again, you know, I know it's got to be a tough day for you. It's been a very busy day, and you know, we'll speak to you soon under different circumstances.
Thank you, Steve.
All right, Governor George Pataki, three-term governor of the state of New York and founder and chairman of the Pataki-Cahill, I might add. And we'll be back with much more of the Steve Malzberg Show after the break. But first, stay tuned for your Newsmax Now update.